So I think one of the hot topics in the field is that the investment have skyrocketed. Between 2019 and 2020, there is a 240% increase in investment. So what do you think is driving that? Because I think we are witnessing unprecedented valuation for biotechs, and I mean we can think about very recent Sana Biotechnology IPO, and there's been Sigilent before. There's been quite a lot of IPO recently. And what do you think is happening in the field? Why biotechnology is so capital intensive, and why are people like betting on it right now?
So to answer that question, I'd actually go back about, I don't know, 8 to 10 years in time, and we start to think about the first wave of cellular therapeutics that came out 2010 onwards, really. Like when I say the first wave, I really mean CAR Ts. So all of these advanced biologic cell therapy companies, which are CAR Ts, have already exited for the most part. Kite has been bought, Juno has been bought. A lot of the big pharma companies have their own CAR T programs internally. But I think back to that time, and I was a student back then, so in biotechnology, still studying, and I remember looking at the venture funding rounds in 2013 and thinking, my God, it is crazy that biotech companies at Series A can go out and raise 100 million, 200 million at the time. So you look at Third Rock investment into Juno as an example, right? At the Series A, it was already a huge investment. Same thing with Kite as well. And the reason why, I think, is because these were the first like genuinely disease-modifying, potentially curative therapies in oncology at the time. And admittedly, they were for liquid tumors, so they weren't for solid tumors. These were all for blood cancers. But the clinical results that people were getting with CAR Ts was just so good that you couldn't ignore it. I mean, at the same time, there were also some significant safety problems as well that they were having. But one clinical trial in a phase 2 would come out where the entire cohort is cured, and then the other one would come out where there would be safety issues. But what people could see is fundamentally that there was a real growth in this space, number one. But the growth was like linked to efficacy and the promise of a genuinely powerful silver bullet for oncology. Now we fast forward to the 10 years from now. CAR Ts, whilst they've been very, very powerful, whilst there have been some great clinical results, it hasn't been the same level of democratized oncology treatment promise that we started with, which has actually happened, right? We're still kind of stuck at a gating point for these advanced CAR Ts and other cellular therapeutics. We're getting them to solid tumors, right? Let's be honest here. And as a result, it meant that we've had to look at sort of other modalities for advanced therapeutics in detail and try and hedge our bets a little bit, particularly for the big pharma companies, which did not jump on that wave of CAR T investments. So, as I mentioned before, I worked for Bayer, right? Bayer did not have a CAR T. By 2015, when everyone else had one and had acquired them and everything, Bayer, we only had, we didn't have any advanced therapeutics at the time, really, apart from the companies we were investing in at Leap. So Casabia and CRISPR, and then BlueRock and stem cell therapeutics, they were Bayer's bets to match the fact that Celgene and Novartis and everyone else had bought up all of these other advanced modality companies. So I think to some extent there was an opportunistic nature of saying, midway through the 2010s, what other advanced modalities can we move towards so that we can jump in this wave, basically? Because clearly there's a lot of growth, clearly there's a lot of interest, but actually the promise isn't there yet. The gold hasn't been mined. We've just found some of the gold at the top of the surface in the river, right?
Yeah.
Is kind of the way to look at it. And as a result, I think now, 4 years after BlueRock was invested and exited again to Bayer and all the rest of it, people are starting to say, you know what, cell therapies, we can start to go even further and think about iPSCs in particular now, as opposed to just cell therapy as a genre.
Yeah.
And people have started to double down on it again. And as you said, right, this 240% increase, which is, it's a very large increase, but given it's biotech, it's not that crazy compared to other industries. If this has happened in something like, I don't know, enterprise software or consumer, it would really be crazy. But in biotech, Everyone knows it's highly capital intensive anyway. I think this is more of an acceptance of the industry that cell therapy is now here to stay, and that the promise and the hope of saying that by 2030, 10 years from now, cell therapy will really be ubiquitous with treatment for a lot of these advanced diseases. And not just in oncology, also in the areas that we as iPSC people care about, the areas that we're looking at. So Parkinson's and heart disease, two massive chronic diseases, whereby actually if we solve even a minor proportion of that, the impact we have is absolutely huge. So I'd say a lot of it is based on promise, but the genes to start all of this and push it all forwards in 2019 and 2020 all started actually 10 years ago with that first wave of advanced biologics.